Lebanon is on the brink of civil war. With everything else going on in the Middle East, with attention on Gaza and on Iran and on Syria and all the other fronts, the Lebanon situation is spiraling out of control. Throughout 2024, Israel devastated Hezbollah's capabilities. Hezbollah, the terrorist group that dominated Lebanon for decades, was brought basically to its knees. A lot of its leadership was killed, including its supreme leader, Hassan Nasrallah. A lot of its military capabilities were taken out by the Israelis, but it was not destroyed. Now, when the ceasefire was signed between Israel and Hezbollah in late November of 2024, Israel remained in certain key defensive positions in southern Lebanon and has been refusing to withdraw until Hezbollah is completely disarmed. In the wake of the Israel-Hezbollah war, a more moderate leadership came to power in Lebanon. President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam both took the reins in early 2025, and from day one spoke about the importance of disarming Hezbollah as central to the national recovery of Lebanon and also for Lebanon to regain international credibility. You see, for decades, for 40 plus years, Lebanon was dominated by Hezbollah. Hezbollah basically was an occupying force in Lebanon, so there was an official Lebanese government and Lebanese parliament, didn't really have much power, and the real power, both militarily and politically, in Lebanon was Hezbollah. So now with Hezbollah devastated and new leadership coming in, they immediately started talking about the need to disarm Hezbollah. And this new Lebanese government has the backing and the encouragement of Western powers. Currently, over the last couple of months, the United States, Middle East envoy Tom Barrack, and the Saudis and the Europeans have been talking to the Lebanese government and encouraging them to move forward with these disarmament plans. Now, before we go on, make sure to go into the description of this video below and download the free ebook that is available there. This is a collection of columns that I've published over the course of the last year and a half since the beginning of the October 7th war. It really gives you a feel, like almost like a diary, gives you a feel for everything we've been through in this war. So go ahead and download that ebook. From Israel's perspective, when the dust settled on the war with Hezbollah and the ceasefire was signed in late November of 2024, Israel maintains certain defensive positions in South Lebanon, and the Israelis insist that they will not pull out of those positions until they see that Hezbollah is actually being disarmed and Lebanon is headed in a more peaceful direction. On August 5th, just a few weeks ago, the Lebanese government instructed the Lebanese army to come up with an action plan to actually disarm Hezbollah, and they're supposed to present that plan by August 31st, and there is a cabinet meeting scheduled for this Friday, September 5th, to discuss the plan in detail. There are reports coming out that the senior leadership of the Lebanese army is very uncomfortable with this plan, with this instruction, this demand that they come up with a plan to disarm Hezbollah. And there's even been reports of threats of resignations of some of the senior officers. You see, the Lebanese army has a significant percentage of its personnel that are Shiite Muslims, and that means that they're family members and come from the same religious ideology and religious community as Hezbollah itself. And any attempt by the Lebanese army to confront Hezbollah in any way would cause significant fracturing, even complete disintegration of the Lebanese army. That's the instability of the current situation. Now, how did Hezbollah react to this government decision in early August to disarm them? Here is Naim Qassem, the supreme leader, as it were, of Hezbollah.
تسلم المقاومة سلاحها والعدوان مستمر والاحتلال قائم وسنخوضها معركة كربلائية إذا لزم الأمر في مواجهة هذا المشروع الإسرائيلي الأمريكي مهما كلفنا، ونحن واثقون أننا سننتصر في هذه المعركة وهيهات منا الذلة. تتحمل الحكومة اللبنانية كامل المسؤولية لأي فتنة يمكن أن تحصل. نحن لا نريدها، ولكن هناك من يعمل لها. وتتحمل الحكومة اللبنانية مسؤولية أي انفجار داخلي وأي خراب للبنان.
So here's Naim Qassem threatening civil war, threatening armed confrontation should an attempt be made to disarm Hezbollah. Now, the Battle of Karbala that he mentions there is a 7th century Muslim civil war, actually, between two different sects within early Islam. And for Shiite Muslims, the Battle of Karbala is a symbol of resisting injustice. So that's how he's framing this attempt to disarm Hezbollah. Now, this negative reaction by Hezbollah should not surprise us one bit. Hezbollah was created by the Iranians in order to be a military force attacking the Israelis. That's its entire raison d'etre. So obviously, they're not going to agree to be disarmed. Now, I mentioned before that Hezbollah built up a lot of political power in Lebanon over the course of the last few decades and basically ran the country up until 2024. And what that means is that Hezbollah is not just a terrorist organization with some weapons that could fairly easily be disarmed. They are still a significant political force. They dominate certain blocs in the parliament and positions in the cabinet. They run their own schools. They have their own hospitals, charities, media outlets, and even banks. So Hezbollah being disarmed would cause significant unrest for the entire Lebanese society. Now, the Lebanese army itself is kind of underfunded and not all that capable. Hezbollah, even in its weakened state, probably is still stronger than the Lebanese army. And Hezbollah's political allies could destabilize the government significantly if the government moves forward with a plan to disarm Hezbollah. Bottom line is this. Hezbollah is too entrenched militarily, socially, and politically to just be dismantled. The Lebanese army is not really capable or willing to confront Hezbollah directly. And all of these incentives that are being given by the Americans and the Saudis to create an economic zone and to give economic incentives to the Lebanese government if they go through with disarming are all very well-meaning, but they're not really giving the Lebanese army what it needs to carry out this mission. So while the policy of disarming Hezbollah is the right policy, the capabilities of the Lebanese army, the capabilities of the Lebanese government to actually implement it are limited, and the chances of success are very slim. So that makes this an extremely volatile situation because, again, Israel's not going to pull out of those positions in South Lebanon unless Hezbollah is disarmed. The Western nations and the Saudis very much want Lebanon to come over to the more moderate side of the Arab world, the more Abraham Accords aligned side of the Arab world, and they're offering economic incentives. Most of the people of Lebanon would love to be rid of Hezbollah because of all the destruction that has been brought upon Lebanon because of Hezbollah. But Hezbollah and the Shiite Muslims in Lebanon are still a strong enough sector of the population, and they're still well armed enough that they are going to resist all efforts to disarm them. So there's a collision course that is unfolding right now in Lebanon. It could easily turn into a civil war. If it does, that means more conflict, more destabilization of the Middle East. This is a very volatile situation. We'll be watching it closely in the coming days.